Now today we're going to be talking about the sports manga Aoashi. I had read Aoashi not too long ago and wanted to show you guys how good this manga actually is. Many fans all over are enjoying Blue Lock currently as the top sports manga, but Aoashi is good in its own right. It's more about traditional saga and narration on trials and tribulations in contrast to Blue Lock's more edgy, ego-styled characters. The story's main character is a boy named Ashido who is from a small town called Arahime. His dreams of becoming a great forward who can score goals and gets noticed by a man named Fukuda who is the manager of a youth team in Tokyo called Esperion Youth. Ashido manages to show Fukuda his amazing analytical insight, being able to remember every single player on the field and what they were doing. This catches Fukuda off guard and he ends up inviting him to his team. Fukuda offers Ashido a dream of working hard to go to the world stage. He has the talent to do it, but struggles often due to original fundamentals that he didn't acquire while growing up. Ashido eventually has great teammates who at first start off rocky for him, but they all eventually get along and can be friends. Ashido is really good because of the fact he is a playmaker on the field. He can do it all and has great vision. The biggest problem at first was that he was playing forward, but always wanted to score and couldn't give a full insight on the field. Eventually, after doing well as a forward and getting eyes everywhere out of nowhere, his manager tells him to become a defender. This is a big shock in the story because Ashido's dream was to become a great striker and now his manager is telling him to play defense. Ashido had never played defense in his life and it hit him hard. Hearing those words made his head spin and he could not believe it. He didn't come all the way here to become a defender and now he thinks about giving up and quitting. He goes through a dark time where he doesn't quite understand why he was chosen to become a defender and he sits at a park by himself trying to figure it all out. He now had to change his entire playstyle to help the team win. Before he was pretty selfish and only cared about scoring goals for himself, but realized that soccer is a sport where it's 11 players on the field are working together. This is completely different from the ideology of Blue Lock. As he is still in despair from switching positions, his friend Hannah decides to give him some food. He still has not been able to cheer up. As he still is wavering, Hannah decides to call his mom. His mom is still back at home running their family business to make sure Ashido can keep up with his youth soccer payments to work hard. They took out a lot of their money just so he can go play soccer and his mother's voice is his reason for playing. He cannot let her down. His mother tells him that he shouldn't bear it and if it doesn't work out, he can always just come back home. Instead of trying to ridicule him or get upset, she is simply consoling him, telling him that it is okay. The call ends and Hannah tells Ashido that she knows he came here carrying many burdens, but he cannot drive himself into a corner. He cannot have those eyes of despair and must find a new resolve to go out and win. Ashido has now found his motivation again and calls on his friends to help him teach him how to become a defender. Ashido begins playing at fullback and realizes that he can see over everything now and the field looks so far away from the goal. Still though, he starts to question all of it as the defender's playstyle is so boring to him. It doesn't suit his personality at all and he doesn't get the meaning of this. He starts to question himself again, saying that there's no way he can do this. We see these emotional moments a lot from Ashido as he cannot come to terms with being a defender. He has to learn a new position from scratch and completely change his mindset and playstyle to benefit the team. He tells himself that fullback isn't where he belongs and he should be at the front as a forward scoring goals. He starts to think more and more to be able to get better as a fullback and doesn't have the answers. Ashido is a smart character and can do a lot, but he can't seem to figure out the X's and O's of the team. He is constantly behind, just observing and figuring out his place on the team itself. He doesn't want to get left behind and starts to seek out others for advice. One of them happens to be one of his biggest foes, Akutsu, who is constantly tearing down Ashido and telling him to just give up because he can't play soccer. These two become great allies eventually though in the future. Ashido has always had great eyes and we start to see more of that as the games get increasingly harder. He's able to fit more into his role with the use of his eyes that can scan the entire field and look over everyone. He has what are called eagle eyes that can look over like an eagle soaring through the field. With eagle eye, Ashido is able to become a different player. Switching to fullback helped him a lot because now he could see the entire field differently. He didn't have to worry about players behind him because he was at the back scanning it all. Eventually, he even gets to a point where he can predict what players can do next. He now has the ultimate insight of a player and what moves they can make. It's like someone watching TV and they see the open space that you normally can't see when you're playing. It's a sight above the field like an eagle shooting from above. This is Ashido's main power, being able to see the field from a higher dimension and using that to his advantage. We don't see many players with this type of eyesight in Aoashi, so it is a very rare skill to have. Ashido is now able to grasp where all the players are at and circle over the whole pitch like a bird from above and can guide his teammates to the right positions while also understanding his own position better. Ashido eventually meets another player like him whose name is Katano Ren. He's a genius under 18 player who comes from high school and the top team in their division. They both notice each other, they have the same eyes and insist on defeating one each other. Earlier on before, Ashido had almost managed to grasp a new part of the field but was stopped short. He could not fully grasp it at the time and it felt like he was sinking into water as his abilities was moving farther and farther away from him. He eventually can figure out what he was lacking thanks to Katano Ren and now has the formula he was looking for. Ashido made a breakthrough in the game against Ren and now the whole team and opponents were being manipulated all by him, causing everyone to notice him. He eventually starts to call up his own plays and see things that not even the manager could see, allowing him to further increase his skills and win the game. His match with Katana Ren is a great one to see and shows you how far Ashido could go after that game. These two who were the same and had the same eyes yet come from different worlds. Ashido was able to defeat the demon known as Katana Ren today, and their battle has now only begun, whether they become teammates or enemies. Ashido's performance was so great that he eventually got called up to play for the national team, and now everyone is looking for him. I'd only read up to chapter 285 for this series, but it was great up to this point. Seeing Ashido's redemption from the start of the series and overcoming his hardships to now being called onto the national team is great. Aoashi is a more traditional sports anime, but I think seeing the come up for Ashido, who was just a kid from a small town, to now playing for the national team is a great thing. He had came a long way and we got to see that progression from start to finish. When he first got there, his teammates ridiculed him, his own manager thought he wasn't good enough, and his worst enemy had it out for him, but now he has the ultimate support from everyone. I think Aoashi is a great read and you guys really should check it out. It is a long series with over 352 chapters currently, but right now they are playing in the nationals against other countries, so that would be cool to see. The series has a very heartwarming approach to it at first, not really showcasing a darker side until later on in the series when we finally get to see characters like Ashido and Ikutsu have more defining moments from their lives. Seeing the characters go through adversity and fight off despair was the best ever. There was also some great games in the story as Esperion was known as the best, so everyone wanted to take them down. We also get to see the difference between high school football and youth club football, which is a completely different style of football. The clash of coaches' ideologies comes into play and we see more tactical lineups and inputting different strategies to help the teams win. My biggest takeaway from the story would be the character development of Ashido and the progression of the story, taking on more opponents and living up to the hype. Many times in the beginning it looked hopeless, but that's not the case anymore. The story isn't like Kuroko where they have a lot of superstars everywhere, or like Blue Lock where the main character is always getting the shine. We see a lot of characters play their role and showcase it themselves. We even see some players that actually have an ego more than others, and then players who are selfless to do whatever it takes to win. This series showcased more of Japanese soccer to its roots and its essential use of teamwork. We will see how they fare well in the nationals going off against different countries. I think this series can differ a lot from Blue Lock. Blue Lock has shown us more of a protagonist's dream of wanting to be a striker and following that ego no matter what, whereas in Aoashi it's more so about how can I utilize my skills to best impact the team. Also, Aoashi follows a more traditional football with refs and official games and times, whereas Blue Lock many times had 3v3s in the battlefield where players would get eliminated if they lost. Overall, they are both great series in their own right. Aoashi has many great matches and battles, but I think Blue Lock makes you care more about its characters due to their tragic backstories and reasonings for wanting to win, whereas in Aoashi, we don't see too much of that from a lot of characters. Blue Lock also gave the MC a lot of enemies and players who want to crush him, whereas Ashido's main rival wasn't introduced until later on in the series. Aoashi had a lot more building time in his story, allowing the characters to develop, whereas in Blue Lock, the MC progresses a lot faster due to the overwhelming environment that he was thrown into. What sets Blue Lock apart from other soccer anime is its focus on the striker position. Soccer, strikers are the ones responsible for scoring goals, and they often get the most attention. Blue Lock takes this idea to the extreme, creating a world where the striker is the most important position on the field. The show explores what it takes to be a great striker both physically and mentally, and the challenges that come with it. On the other hand, Aoashi is a more grounded anime that focuses on the sport of soccer itself. The show follows a high school team as they try to win the national championship. Along the way, they face tough opponents and learn valuable lessons about teamwork, character growth, and sportsmanship. Unlike Blue Lock, Aoashi doesn't have any supernatural elements, making it a more realistic and relatable experience. What sets Aoashi apart from other sports anime is its focus on the tactical side of the game. The show spends a lot of time exploring different strategies and tactics that teams use to win matches. It also delves into the relationships between teammates and how they can work together to achieve a common goal. For those who appreciate the finer details of soccer, Aoashi is a great choice. Of course, there is no winner when it comes to Blue Lock versus Aoashi. Each show has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice ultimately comes down to personal preference. Some fans prefer the high-flying action and supernatural elements in Blue Lock, while others appreciate the more grounded approach of Aoashi. Regardless of which show you choose to watch, one thing is certain, both Blue Lock and Aoashi are great anime for soccer fans. They both offer unique perspectives on the sport and provide plenty of entertainment value. Whether you're a die-hard soccer fan or just looking for a fun new anime to watch, these shows are definitely worth checking out. Ashido and Asagi are also very similar characters in terms of ability. They both use an eagle eye type of ability where they can scan the field watching out for teammates and opponents, manipulating everyone for their own sake. Asagi plays as an offensive midfielder currently though, giving more access to score, whereas Ashido plays as a fullback. These two have both been generational for their teams though due to their spatial awareness on the field. I would say Asagi defers from Ashido due to his ego of becoming a striker and taking goals for himself, whereas Ashido doesn't mind being selfless anymore and will pass the ball for others to score. Currently where I'm at in both mangas, I would say that Asagi has an edge, but I am not caught up fully in Aoashi to see where he has improved even more. Asagi has also gone up against tougher opponents in his manga, whereas Ashido right now hasn't gotten to the best of them just yet. Blue Lock's focus on strikers makes it harder to judge based off of that, but currently the Blue Lock 11 would have no problem defeating Ashido's Esperion team. Regardless, these are still two great characters in their series and are doing a lot for their team to win. Sports anime in general has been fantastic recently, and we keep seeing so many more series elevate and do well. I think the next anime I want to watch is Ace of the Diamond, because I keep seeing just how great that sports anime is, though I don't know how much I would enjoy baseball. Then again, I loved an anime where everyone was playing volleyball, so who knows. Let me know how you guys feel about Aoashi, and if you guys will go check it out. Like I said before, I think it's worth reading and will give you a different experience, especially if you enjoy Blue Lock. Well, I thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back in the next one. Peace.